Good morning, everybody. My name is Phil, and joining me for today's conversation are my three friends, Audrey, Lisa, and Justin. Before we get talking about the topic of today's conversation, maybe let's do a little round-robin introduction. Lisa, Audrey, and then Justin. Lisa, let's start with you. Who are you? What do you do? Where are you from?
Hi, I'm Lisa Corrado, with Program Manager for the Niles DDA Main Street. Been here for 25 years working to grow this amazing community.
Awesome. Audrey, who are you?
Hey, I'm Audrey Tabendon in the city of Coldwater. I'm also the Main Street Program Manager locally, and I've been in this position for about 6 years, and we've been in Main Street for 2 of those.
Excellent. Justin, last but not least.
Justin Flagel. I am the current chair of 9th Street, as well as the chair, co-chair now of the promotions committee. Former chair of, I think, every committee at this point. We were just discussing with Lisa. I've been doing this about 10 years or so now. So treater for a long time. I also do have a downtown business, Red Chuck Productions, and I make new media.
Awesome. Justin, if you don't mind, I kind of want to get to know you a little bit, because I know Lisa and I know Audrey, but I just want to ask you, Justin, you are board chair, getting involved in various ways in Main Street. Why? What was the initial motivation to getting involved in Main Street?
I mean, the earliest of the whys, my grandmother, Dorothea, she's a legendary personality who taught me that being involved in your community means all the things. She so many different years in her lifetime as a first woman doing this and that, and being involved in her community in general. So I took that lesson from her, and then I sort of ended up in Niles kind of on accident years back, and that energy of being involved in communities I'd been in before, and thought, well, I need to get involved in this one. And a lot of things in my life have happened. I was at my local watering hole and talking to the bartender, and he said, well, you should join Main Street. And here I am.
Can I ask how old you are, Justin?
I am 42. Yes, 42.
I'm so encouraged by you, like, being so involved in Main Street. Typically, you hear like board chair, and that has a certain demographic of people in a lot of our communities. But when I meet folks like you and like Audrey too, like you guys are absolute fire breathers for your communities. So involved, not just in the work, but in the heart of your communities. And I think that translates so much into the work that you do and the progress that you can make. And that encourages me that in a lot of our communities, we are passing the torch well. We are saying we're doing some great things here, but if it all stops after we're gone, we all lose. And so to have some younger folks involved in Main Street is so encouraging. So cheering you on. Today we're talking about transformation. You hear the word transformation in, I want to say, every community. We love to throw around the word transformation, and we're looking for transformation and all of those things. But what we sometimes forget is that in order for transformation to happen, you need a strategy. It doesn't just happen. It doesn't just come out of the sky and suddenly you're transformed and everybody's happy and we're all getting what you want. It's really intentional work that is driven by knowing the community and its needs and its assets and all of those things. And so you can't have transformation if you don't know those things. And so we're talking today about Michigan Main Street's transformation strategies service, the process, what the results of it, and both short-term and long-term. And so let's go ahead, dive right in. Niles, I'll take you first, and then we'll throw the same question over to Audrey. Talk me through the process of it. When you hear transformation strategies, how did Michigan Main Street and Niles in Coldwater interact and start this process of strategizing?
So it was back in 2017 when National came up with let's start doing transformational strategies versus just and it was a lot of community surveying, asking the community what was missing, what did we need, and what should we focus our attention on. And I believe there was a series of meetings with a variety of stakeholders in the community. And in our particular instance, it all kind of led to having local foods as what we would focus on, getting in local food businesses, from restaurants to outdoor markets to kitchen incubators.
Yeah, were they specifically the feedback that you received? Was it specifically geared towards like quantity, or was it a diversity of
Diversity,
options?
variety. We had. We're not much different than a lot of small towns across the country. We had a lot of pizza shops, so you could get pizza in just about any form that you wanted, but not a heck of a lot else. So it helped us kind of utilize the resources that we had to help grow other businesses, things that people wanted. They wanted a bakery. We were able to get a bakery. They wanted a brewery. We were able to get a brewery. We were able to get a distillery. And just by having that focus and folks talking about it, people started looking to us when they wanted to start businesses like that.
Awesome. Justin, anything to add there process-wise?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note that, it wasn't just a matter of these are all things that we wanted. The conversations we were having and the data that we also had the resources for that. We had the people interested in making the food and setting up the restaurants. Certainly did draw some people from and turn them into Niles people, but also just already kind of had a DNA for this food, natural fit on a lot of levels.
Right. Transformation strategies are so practical because while there are parts of it that you can kind of R&D, they have to be so useful to your local context in the assets that you have, the interests that you have, and kind of what the people want, and marrying all those things together. So I think a really useful analogy is almost like Main Street gives you the roadmap, right? We all kind of know how to drive, but that doesn't mean that we can get from here to there really efficiently. If we didn't have maps, if we didn't have GPS, if we didn't have all these things, and what Main Street hands you is like, this is where you need to go. This is how to get there. I mean, it's up to you to do that work, but we're not going to make you reinvent the wheel, and we're not going to make you get out those maps yourself. We're going to show you how to do it and do it really well. So that has been tremendously helpful, again, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And now we also know how important these strategies are because of how many people they affect. Just this year, I mean, my community got ours a little bit earlier, but other communities will get their visitor profile in the fall. And so we know that we've got 186,000 individual people make over 1.3 million trips to our district each year. So when we're planning for the long-term vision for our downtown and the number of people that impacts, you want to make sure that you're doing a really bang-up job of planning for that, because it's not just about you and it's not just about your board. It's about that wider network of who's affected and who stands to benefit from that work.
Justin, you kind of kicked off this idea of the community said, hey, we need this, but along the way you also unearthed the assets that you had in order to fulfill that. And I love that discovery, because you see all the time in community, like Facebook groups, somebody will jump into the group and say, what does this town really need? And everybody's like, we need another Taco Bell, or we need a Whole Foods, and we need 4 more Applebee's. And like, well, while that can be beneficial and it does lend a certain perspective, it's also very superficial, because like we're just kind of grasping at ideas. We're very limited in substantiating any of those moves. And then along the way, like, it's one thing for me to say, hey, I need 3 Whole Foods in my community in order for me to be happy. And it's another thing to actually pull that off. You need Whole Foods to say, hey, we can provide that for you. And so, Justin, when you said like we also had it in our DNA to fulfill this, we had people at the ready, and all we had to do was support them and give them an environment and cultivate what they already wanted to give us. And now we can have that. Audrey, you throwing all these numbers and all this math at us.
I'm so sorry.
No, I love that because it's such an important part of this service of this transformation strategy to have math, because you got to know. You can't just say, well, I think we need X, Y, and Z. You got to be able to prove it. You got to be able to say, this is what we have to work with. This is what we need. This is our population, like X, Y, visitors. So the math makes it work. And so it makes investment a lot better. Anything to say about that? Anybody?
No, just to agree. Like, some of those data points are a springboard for the entrepreneur who's sitting around kicking around an idea and doesn't know whether or not it will have legs. It can give some confidence to those projects.
Yes.
And yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, so many times we've had an idea of something that would work, and it goes beyond this strategy, but it applies to the strategy as well. Would know something to be true, but we couldn't necessarily prove it to be true. We knew from being on the ground and being out there and experiencing it, and then having the ability to prove it with that math and that data to know, no, you should bring your restaurant here. We can make this happen, is incredibly important.
Yeah, it's one thing for you to know what you need, but in order to move forward and achieve that transformation, everybody needs to know that you need that, and that means bringing the math, bringing the data, showing what's possible, and then you can start asking for investments because you have something to back it up rather than just I think we need this, and so you should invest XYZ. Lisa, anything
Yeah.
to add there?
No, and then the market analysis, the data that comes from Michigan Main Street to help us make intelligent, informed decisions is critical.
Yeah. Lisa, I want to ask you a little bit about some of the immediate outcome of how you saw the feedback being we need a greater diversity of businesses. Can you tell us what exactly you did to accomplish that? Because I think like your incubator idea is was so great.
We did a lot of things at the same time. We had a really thriving outdoor market. We worked with local business that had a restaurant go under, that had a lovely big a lovely big kitchen that they allowed us to rent to start a kitchen incubator. And we were able to begin a little over a dozen businesses, some that came downtown, some that went elsewhere, some that were producers. We were able to have the conversation when someone came to town about what resources we had, a large one being Match on Main, which is a program through Michigan Main Street that allowed us to write the grants and support our ask for the money with a business that needed it to grow our transformational strategy and add a new food business. And that was a lot of the conversation. I believe in the beginning we were blessed and able to be one of the pilots for Match on Main with one of our food businesses. And I don't know that any have opened that we haven't been able to get something for moving forward with a Match on Main grant to help them grow and expand. And that's always key is having monies to help businesses.
Yeah, I might be asking a difficult question, but just to give folks a scope of the transformation that happened from the time that you did the initial surveys and gathering feedback to taking actions like the incubator, like the outdoor market. How many food places did you have when you started, and how many food places do you have now?
So I believe that the count was 7 when we started, and I think we're at 18.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like if you
Yeah,
want to talk
it works.
transformation, yeah, like
And we're now looking at. I mean, we chose transformational strategy of local foods because in today's world you got to pick something that you can't get off the internet, and local food is something that makes people come to your district.
Mm,
They have to come and get it, and we're now looking to kind of morph that into, because it's allowed us the opportunity to start talking about maybe yes, local foods, but kind of morph to arts and entertainment as other things that people have to actually come and see versus being able to buy a product offline. And then that has created an environment that does put feet on the street and allows for your retailers to have an opportunity to start, where I don't know that anyone would necessarily come here for one of the retail shops that we have, but if they're here for dinner and wander past your storefront, they didn't know that you were there. Boom, you pop in, and now they have retail.
yeah, absolutely. Justin, from your perspective, what, even if I don't go to all 18 restaurants, food places, what does that kind of transformation, that kind of momentum do to the fabric of the community, the perception of the community as a whole?
Well, I've had keeping in the back of my mind as we've been having this discussion is community pride. As Lisa stated, we were before my time driving community in all these different ways, and then because of various things that happened, we lost that. And with that economic loss came a loss of pride. And one of the battles we still fight to a certain extent, is that community pride, that are from here, that are just down on the, Niles isn't cool, there's nothing going on here, that sort of a thing. And so when you can see people out in the street and all of a sudden realizing, oh, I can go, my coffee down on the corner and then walk up to the record store or to the by the brewery, or like all these things, when you start to see people on the street actually action to those things, see how that changes their perspective of the community and how that filters out and changes, it was that pride all around. And then that pride increasing only draws more people to us, which raises the pride. It's a beautiful cycle that we are here right now. So.
Yeah, I just want to point that out, and Audrey, I'm coming for you next. I want to point that out, that there's so many ancillary benefits to this. I mean, one, you more than doubled the diversity of food in Niles, but along the way, people see businesses popping up left and right. They see that progress. If I'm an aspiring entrepreneur, that's really encouraging for me. I might be opening a retail shop, but when I see other businesses being successful, I see a Main Street program supporting those businesses. That says, okay, this is kind of scary, but it's less scary considering the movement that we have. And when you talk about pride, something that I talk about a lot is, we can say shop local, we can say volunteer, you should be involved in government, engaged in your community. We can say all those things, but no one will actually take those actions if they don't care about the community first. They have to care about the community first, and then they will shop local, and then they will sit on 10 different committees and boards. They will open up that business. They will pick up trash and things like that. And so, yes, you transformed food in Niles, but at the same time, you're transforming the perception of the community, and that pride and that care goes a long way in so many unseen ways. Audrey, what did you guys discover from your transformation strategy? What were the actions that you took to implement that?
Sure. Our strategy is all about arts and culture, but through the lens of being very family friendly, just looking at the age of our residents, different life stages, all of those kinds of things. And even though we are much less further along in our Main Street journey, we're about 2.5 years in now, we've had so many opportunities to take that strategy and all the work that we did and say, because of this, we need to go do X, Y, or Z. One of the really big projects and really exciting projects out of that was using a building that the DDA had owned and was sitting on to invest money and to fundraise so that we could renovate that space and move the Children's Museum back downtown into it, right? We wanted revitalized buildings. We wanted families downtown. And in the first, I want to say 9 months alone that they were opened, they more than doubled their foot traffic. They had over 14,000 visitors. Wow. And it's really paid dividends for all the work it took to figure out how to make that possible. So that's one really awesome example of, I don't know if we would have done that project if we didn't have all this planning in place that said something like that is exactly what we need. And even our board members, oh, go ahead.
No, even your board members, keep going.
Yeah, even my board members, some of them were a little bit hesitant, didn't know if it was the right move, didn't know if that's how we should be tying up the worst case scenario of that financially, like what that looks like. And now that we've done it and we committed, that they've totally changed their minds. Those who did have reservations and have really seen like, yeah, this does work. Like exactly how that planning was worth it and us acting on it was definitely worth it.
The really magical thing about what you're saying is that the transformation strategy was arts and culture, but in going through the process and getting the numbers and getting the feedback and really doing the work of planning and getting to know what the community needs are, you also checked a bunch of other boxes too. One, arts and culture. Yes, we have a museum now. Two, what community does not struggle with vacancy? Almost all of us. And like we're looking at that really critical building or space downtown and just, man, if we could just get something in there, that would open up so many things. And so it checked that box. And then also like what community doesn't think about like what can families do? or
Right.
what do we have for kids? I mean, like, we can't just be a community of we go out to eat or we go out to the bars. There's got to be additional activities for families and things like that. So in the process, you check 3 of those boxes, and then there's also tourism, or hey, I'm going to drive over to this children's museum. And there's 4. So yes, it's one transformation strategy, but in doing your due diligence, you check 4 boxes along the way.
Oh yeah, and the visibility that the museum has now and their leadership, they have really just done a rockin' job of fundraising for their own purposes and really growing the number of exhibits, and it has definitely been strengthened us on a lot of fronts.
Awesome. Audrey, I'll ask the next question to you, and then I'll throw it over to Niles. Speaking from like a capacity standpoint, sometimes if communities are like, yeah, we know that we need to do this, but I'm doing a million other things. I'm a staff of 1. We don't have any employees. Like we'll do it later. How did your relationship with Michigan Main Street really make this possible for you guys?
That's a great question. Yeah, we didn't increase the number of staff that we have,
Yeah.
but I think we got a lot smarter with how we use our time and being able to show the transformation that is possible with a light crew. And if the extra value that you can bring when you are really working the program, I think is what it has done for us. And it's really shown that, yes, of course you need staff, but also you need to use those staff in a way that is really smart and thoughtful, and bringing in the larger community to work alongside them. So I would say, in addition to like that strategy, I know we've talked about getting people engaged at various points in their life in this program and using the work plans that they give you to go out and conquer. It brings more people into the fold. It gives them an opportunity to not just complain and be nostalgic, but to actually do something, which we've seen a lot of people have an interest in doing, and sometimes it just takes asking.
Yeah, I want to key in on the work plan part of it, and because people might be thinking, well, is Michigan Main Street just give us homework to do, and then we go and do it, and they check in and they grade your paper and they say you need to do better, and then they peace out for the next 2.5 years. But it sounds like they gave you, they plotted the course. They said, hey, this is what we're doing and why. Here are some tips. Is that an accurate description of how they assisted you?
Yes, I wouldn't call it homework, just so I agree with you. It's more about like, how can we help you do the things that you've said and your community has said that they really want done? And making sure that you've got all the help and all the templates or things that will put those people power to work. Yeah. Not everyone is good at project planning. Not everyone is excellent at different things. But when you get those group of people together and you can kind of coordinate those efforts, that's where you can really get some awesome things done. Yeah,
Lisa, I saw you nodding your head all the way through what Audrey was saying. Did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, I mean, Michigan Main Street, you don't know what you don't know, but they do. And so they're there to fill in the gaps and not ever let you feel like you're floundering. It's amazing to have the support that we get from them for every project that we do.
Justin, from your perspective as a board chair, what benefit do you see this relationship with Michigan Main Street? How do you see it benefiting Niles as opposed to maybe not having that relationship or just being like a DDA district?
I mean, I think it's just the tools, there are lots of ideas. And, when you guys were mentioning volunteers, I was thinking in my mind, my favorite response to people is, that's a great idea. And I have a great volunteer opportunity for you now. We can sit in these meetings or talk on the street and a million ideas can be thrown out, and all good ones. But methods of getting them, like of how to get them underway. And I know how to get them underway most of the time. So the tools are very helpful in, just take those things and figure out how to implement them, or even decide if it's a good idea or not.
Yeah, the you don't know what you don't know. I think is such a good point, and it's really a theme that has come up in all of these Main Street conversations that we've had. Is sometimes communities fall into the trap of where I'm a special little snowflake. No one has ever faced the problems and the challenges that we face. Like, no one can help us. And while you are very special, and you are a very special little snowflake. There are very consistent challenges in all of our communities with fundamental solutions that can be adapted to whatever your community is and what you guys need and things like that. Think about like vacancy and supporting small businesses and all of those things. I think the benefit of working with the Main Street crew is they can say, hey, you know what? We've worked with 30 other communities that all had this exact problem and they all did this and that helped them so much. And so you should do it too. And that takes the learning curve away. Now, instead of figuring it out over 25 years of stumbling and screwing it up and nothing really happening, you can accelerate that to like a 2-year or 5-year, and you can wake up and move on to the next challenge. And yeah,
and it's also just inspirational because you do go to you go to you think you're a special snowflake, and then you go to a workshop or a conference and you meet other cities that are going through the exact same thing that you are, and it's humbling, but it's also it inspires you. It's like, oh, okay, so these problems are real, and meet someone that's already figured out a way through those problems, or maybe they're looking to you because you're ahead of them, and so the camaraderie, their inspiration, that helps us get the work done too. Times where we're beaten down, and it's like, why am I doing this? I could just go watch TV or something, and then you meet the others and you see the successes, and inspired to continue on.
Yeah, I think that highlights that, along with being connected directly to Michigan Main Street and Laura and Lee and Josh and the whole crew there. I mean, they're just amazing. You also become connected to other Michigan Main Street communities, not just in Michigan, but also national, other Main Street communities across the country. And so you can wood shop ideas. And I don't, from the 5 years I've been doing this, I have not met a single community where I couldn't send them an email and say, hey, we're struggling with vacancy. I heard that you're not. What did you guys do? And they would like email me everything. They say, well, I have everything in a zip drive for you. So here you go. Wish you the best of luck. Let me know if you have any questions. And that's just indispensable. That's an indispensable resource, especially for our communities that are resource strapped, are capacity strapped, where I'm a team of one or I'm a team of two. Well, now you're a team of 30 communities in Michigan. You've got experts at the state level, experts at the national level. Like now you've got a team behind you, and you can leverage that through the Main Street program. Anything else you guys want to add about transformation strategies, about Main Street in general?
Well, early on I learned that in the Main Street world, the term R&D means rip off and duplicate.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. It's about sharing ideas and making them your own.
Yeah, you don't get honor points by making it intentionally harder on yourself. Community work and making great things happen for your community, it's hard enough as it is. So steal the answers from people that are willing to give them to you. And man, what an incredible resource Michigan Main Street is, specifically this transformation strategy. I love seeing the results that have happened in your communities and really digging into the community, getting to know it, being able to prove needs through data, and then supporting those actions with that information that you gathered. Lisa, if folks are really interested in Niles, maybe they haven't ever been there, where can we find you on the internet, on social media?
Sure, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram with Niles Main Street, and our website is uncoverniles.com.
Awesome. Audrey, what about you?
Similarly, I'm pleased to report that we also finally have a website. So downtowncoldwater.com, and we've got Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank the three of you, Lisa, Audrey, and my new friend, Justin, for the chat today. Please know that after recording, I'm going to be cheering you on in all of your communities. I think you're amazing people, amazing leaders. I'm just really encouraged by the three of you being in the positions that you are. And thanks so much for the work you do in your individual communities for the state of Michigan, for Michigan Main Street. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks
for helping tell the story.
Thanks so much.